Content warning. This podcast contains bones, blood, smut, and swear words.
Before we get into the good shit this week, we wanted to remind you that we've launched a Patreon. You can stave off the deep existential heartbreak you experience in our week off next week by binging extra content for as little as $1 an episode. So if you want to be part of my acquisition of yet more tarot decks, you can head to patreon.com/frontline5th or follow the link in the show notes. Okay, back to that sweet, sweet bone zone action.
Bong.
Oh, I'm the host. Okay. Act 1. Welcome, penitents. Hello, and welcome to the Frontline 5th, a Locked Tomb podcast where two newly minted lictors. Don't worry, it wasn't their idea. Or maybe worry, it wasn't their idea. Explore the Locked Tomb series for the first time while a couple of dried-out bone witches cackle over how little they really know. As you know, we just finished up Season 1 last week with our Gideon the Ninth review. But we are just as generous as the kindly master. So this week we are publishing 2 episodes on short stories of the Locked Tomb universe by Tamsin Muir. One of those episodes is full of spoilers, but don't worry. This one is safe for anyone who's ever met Cam and Pal. Today we're carefully testing all the thanergetic signatures in the mysterious study of Dr. Sex. We decide not to. But before we do, please allow me to introduce our archival team. I'm Marie, Chief Archivist, and I'm here today with my team, Hannah, Brooke, and John, to work through this locked room puzzle alongside teenaged Camilla and Palamides. Team, what were you doing at age 13?
Oh, geez. Age 13 was really strong in the ugly duckling years.
It is for everyone.
Yeah, I was still really recovering from moving from Bay Area to Ohio. And I feel like I was mostly just extremely violently highlighting my differences at the time.
Again, that feels very 13.
Yeah, that, and I guess I would spend a lot of my free time designing Neopets websites. No, that seems a little too old at that age, but those years were about right for continuing to build websites. And I think they were mostly for showing off all of my self-taught Photoshop art.
Do you still have any?
I don't know where I would go and find it. I might have some on like some old drive that I just like transferred an entire like PC to and then promptly forgot about. But no, I don't. I couldn't tell you where it is. And that's okay.
I too was highlighting my differences, although I just never stopped doing that. And so at school, me and my friend Stockton would eat lunch in the art room and make art during lunchtime. And during the summer, I always went to youth theater camp. But when I was 13 was when I started doing Buto, which is this Japanese art form of dance. It was created like right after World War II, and it's all kind of like about getting to the really core distortion and pain and violence and need that is part of humanity. So I started Buto when I was 13 and I did it through college. Yeah, it's still like a really, really important thing to me. And it's weird too because it's so recent that I'm actually 3rd generation because the person who taught me learned under one of the 2 founders, learned under Kazuo Ono. That was what I was doing at 13 was weird dance and weird art.
That was very emotionally intense though.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm not like other girls. Sorry.
So fucking millennial. Okay, John, what were you doing?
I have the most basic white guy answers of all time to
World
this
of
question.
Warcraft.
Yeah, I was playing World of Warcraft. I was on Newgrounds, if you know what that is, the website Newgrounds.
What is that?
I told my wife about this last night. She had no idea what it is. And it's actually funny because they still have the archives going back to when it was originally started. It's still in operation. But it was basically like a web game and web cartoon. I'm trying to think of what like the most equivalent. And then had my first kiss watching Revenge of the Sith in the movie theater.
Oh my God. Yeah. Unbelievable. That movie was so bad. Wait, there was nothing else to do but make out.
You had your first kiss during a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, we went to the movies and saw Revenge of the Sith.
God. Oh, and John was super smooth.
No, it was a horrible movie. That movie made that job so easy. Like, you bored? Everyone lost interest in that immediately. That was a terrible movie.
Wow. Okay, so John is winning so far.
I have the most Cam Pal answer, I think, because I was taking geometry and algebra 2 at the same time with seniors and freaking them out when they realized I was 13 because I was about a year younger than my grade. So what I'm saying is that I was definitely a super nerd, but it's like for Cam and Pal, that would have been like normal / cool. And for me, it most definitely was not.
No.
I think it was fucking cool.
Yeah. Well, this week we're doing analysis on a short story set on the 6th house. Do any of you have any big picture thesis statements that you'd like to include in the abstract of this paper when we submit it?
Yeah, I'm going to state the obvious that Pal and Cam need their own detective series.
Hell yes.
I would pay good money. First off, the fact that this was free is crazy. Like, this was such like a quality little like short story. But I would pay money for like origin story or origin story adjacent from like every house. Like, that would be just so much fun, just to like a short adventure from every house before they get to the.
Oh my God, I
to the
need
planet.
Ianthe, Corona, and Babs.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. Actually, they get into chaos. They're definitely the ones who like find a dead body and don't tell anyone about it. Like, God. I love that. Yeah. I love getting a little insight. So exactly. I love getting a little insight into what the houses are like, because we actually get almost no allusions to what it really is like to live in the 9 houses. So I think that's really cool. And I also, lesbian necromancers in space, except we got basically no space whatsoever in book 1. And it's really interesting because the 6th house is very much a space station, like a classic sci-fi space station. So it's kind of cool to see what that would look.
I think that my thesis statement was going to compare something about like Cam and Pal to Holmes and Watson, but that isn't at all what they're like, because Watson was always like 4 steps behind Holmes. And I love that this story shows how freaking scary smart Cam is. Like, everybody talks about how smart Palamides is, but Cam is right there with him.
Oh my God, Marie, I'm so glad you said this, because it's amazing. There's several moments when Cam actually sees something that Pal doesn't. And it just like is clear that they actually work together. It's not Palamides with Camilla trailing behind carrying his shit, which is easy to mistake it for in Gideon the Ninth. That Camilla is fucking smart.
One's the brains and one's the brawn.
Yeah, well, it's like they're one brain split between 2 people.
Yeah.
Is like how it feels in this story. We've got to get on this before archaeology or collections gets their hand on it. So put your gloves and shoe covers on, and we will head down the stairs to the mysterious study of Dr. Sex.
No, we decide not to.
See, I guess the real thesis statement then is team projects can be fun.
Brooke's coming around. She's coming around to Hannah's side of things.
Oh, I've always been a team projects person. I don't get anything done myself.
Oh.
I hate team projects, but I like collaborative board games. But I weirdly like this podcast we're doing, which frankly is a team project, and I was worried about it, but it's been good.
It's also because you're running the show. And we do what you tell us to.
We just take care of the shit you don't want to do.
I'm just along for the ride.
Act 2. Damn, I love a heist.
This section of Frontline 5th is safe for anyone who has read Gideon the Ninth and the mysterious study of Dr. Sex.
We're not going to.
I did a little.
You did a little. This whole vignette is set on the 6th house with its committees and departments that make up the beautiful bureaucracy of academia. And it starts out with Camilla and Palamides, age 13, hanging out in Cam's dorm.
And very immediately, it's like this is told kind of from Camilla's perspective, like as a story from the past, like from her recollections.
Yeah, and she describes it as the first time that they ever really surprised the like 6th house higher ups. This is the first time that they really like made a splash. It's also interesting because, of course, at the time, Palamedes is 13 and he is a scholar, which is some sort of like technical rank on the sixth house. But she always refers to him as Warden or the Warden throughout the entire thing because that's who he is to her now.
Mm-hmm.
The way that she starts it out is that Cam is reading a letter from Dulcinea, and Dulcinea is in short writing to them both about the success of the suggestions that Palamedes had written to her about medical interventions, but she's also just kind of writing about her life because she's been sent to live peacefully with Protesilaus and his family, and she just clearly finds it painfully dull. She says that she's writing from prison, and
she's so fucking funny. She's like absolutely hilarious. The scenery is wasted on your old hag of a correspondent. You know, very trash. Like
Very
it's
trash.
just so funny. I like.
I was kind of surprised to hear that like Pro is being framed as a strict parent.
yeah.
I assumed that his like, you know, live version of himself would be like really big and lovable sort of thing. Or even if he like wasn't like obviously lovable, he'd be like so quiet and silent. That's what we saw, right? Is like somebody who didn't really talk. It's like that's still like a vibe that could be like, you know, like doesn't say much, but
Yeah, I don't know. It's like so funny because we just realize here that we never actually met either of these people at all.
Apparently he's very severe
like,
and that sucks.
Well, I don't know. He doesn't come off to me as necessarily severe. He just is like trying to take care of her. He's like overprotective.
Is
so he
that
like
what
won't
it
let
is?
his children, you know, like make too much noise.
I totally misunderstood.
Yeah, because it says, if their poor kids even breathe loudly, they are taken out back and summarily beheaded. They
Yes.
play in whispers and go around on tiptoe. This is the opposite of what I want, as I desire noise. And they all love me, which says less about my lovability and more about how little company they get this far out of Cyprus.
That's some humility.
I feel like Dulcinea is always this person who's always sick, but she doesn't want that to be her main thing. But it's everybody's always trying to protect her, always sending her out of the city to recuperate, in, you know, amongst the roses with the children.
I also love that it like shows that Cam is somehow kind of part of this really. Like she has a friendship with Dulcinea as well through the letters. It's not just that Cam is on the outside seeing what goes on between Palamedes and Dulcinea in the letters. It's that she's one of the friends in there. It's like it's like a friend group and there's something complicated between two of them.
It's an iconic trio.
So at the same time, like, so it's and it's sent to my dearest pals, which is both Cam and Pal. But there is a part later where she says their eldest is about yours and C's age. So she's still kind of writing mostly to Palamedes, and I like, but trying to include Camilla. And I feel like I, as Camilla, would have felt, you know, like someone was trying to include me. But
Yeah.
I would have noticed it.
Well, and then the next little paragraph there feels like some sort of a gentle friend zoning of talking about that eldest and saying, understandably, I have adopted him as a younger brother.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
This one who's your age, that's my little brother, right? Yeah, like
I don't know that we ever get clarity on what Dulcinea actually feels. If it's like completely a friend zone or if it's very definitely like a, uh-oh, like this is, like put yourself in her position, you know, she's like 20 something. And even if you do have some sort of feelings, like you're never going to feel completely romantic. Like you have to be very careful as an adult around adolescents and children and how they feel about you because there's a fucking power dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, I think it's funny that like the items that she wants him to bring her are like things that you can only purchase as an adult, like cigarettes and extramural magazines, like things that like literally children cannot get you.
Yes.
well, yeah. It's also funny to me that she has to say this is a joke because Palamedes takes things very seriously. And so like suggesting that she was going to smoke cigarettes considering her lungs situation, I feel like Palamedes would be like, no, don't do that.
Question. Do you think at the beginning of this letter, when they're talking about like the treatments that Pal had thought about, that like she's literally doing this via necromancy? Because that's what I thought was interesting, is like she's trying to like move the fluid around in her own body and like everything else, which I thought was really cool. And then,
There's a part in Gideon the Ninth when Gideon is like, oh, is this like medical necromancy? And Cam and Pal are like, no, that would be a contradiction in terms. But it's clearly what they're fucking doing. Like they're clearly using necromantic based magic systems in order to do medicine.
Yeah, flesh magic can work on flesh, presumably.
So Cam is reading the letter. Palamides, meanwhile, is trying to figure out how many points he has because it seems like there is an academically based point system that allows you to achieve like the internal ranks in the 6th. And in contrast, there isn't an elaborate system for swordsmen entering the cohort. The only thing that matters there is competency and attractiveness.
I love this.
I love this so much. Attractiveness is key because of the problems with inbreeding in a house as small as the 6th. And so a whole subsection of the soldiers that the cohort or that the 6th sends to the cohort are there to honeypot other soldiers and diversify the gene pool.
It's so explicit. It's just hilarious. They're literally sent specifically to like areas where everyone's going to be bored and where there's nothing to do. And their final exam is erotic poetry instead of swordsmanship.
So it's kind of funny because there's this whole system within the 6th where you have, there's rules about who you can marry unless you're attractive enough that you might actually be able to have a real relationship that is based on feelings.
I think what it is like if you're going to go to the cohort, like if you are going to go to the cohort or you're attractive enough to go to the cohort and theoretically get the interest of somebody outside of the house.
Yep.
Then
I think that's what it is.
That's where you have freedom.
Pool.
That's where you have some freedom.
But also I think that like later on when it starts bringing up like the way that like it becomes clear that Juno Zeta, who we meet in a little bit, is Palamides' mother, but she doesn't have anything to do with Palamides' dad. She was like, oh, how's your dad doing?
Yeah, she has no relationship with him. Well, but it's also, so Camilla says that there's only 2 people who are like actually that she is allowed to breed with on the 6th because of the inbreeding laws. So I feel like the only goal, they're just like, anybody who's hot, we just need you to get laid as much as possible by people from outside of this house. We just need you to go and fuck a 2nd house, 3rd house, 4th house, 5th house. Like, goes through. Exactly.
Fuck the neighborhood is basically what you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. But also, I feel like this is kind of funny, but I feel like this is something that is kind of done in Iceland, where you check the genealogy tables and make sure that you actually aren't really like too closely related, right? Like you check and see that you aren't related because you might accidentally be more related than you think you are because the
6th house like forestalls this. They, tell you who you're allowed to ahead of time so you don't fall in love with somebody that you can't actually like.
Yeah, because that's not everybody.
I don't think that like the whole thing about relationships is separate. I get the impression that relationships are separate from children.
Yeah,
so it
seems very transactional.
Because also Cam has 2 dads.
Oh.
Like it says her dads.
Juno does say they in describing, because I see them more. Yeah. Huh.
So Cam has dads. And so that seems like that was a romantic relationship where they just like they're taking care of a child.
It's possible.
It seems like there's potentially the idea that like your genetic parents are different because Pal's dad is on like a parenting sabbatical where it sounds like he's just responsible for raising children.
Right. I mean, these are duties, right? Basically is how they describe them. It's like, it's your duty to reproduce. It's your duty to try and diversify the gene pool. It's your duty to raise members of society.
Very much like a commune and like very, very much like these are your roles in society. And then like your personal relationships are your personal relationships that they're like they may not necessarily be exactly like the same. Like you don't have to be stuck with and be madly in love with and like try to shepherd through a family with somebody who is your genetic match, right? It's just like you make sure that you have children with your genetic match if you're going to have children, or if it's like your duty to have children or provide your genetic material. And then in terms of like raising children, like that can be like something that you just kind of say, like, I'm not worried about that right now. Like,
and it's certainly clear that all of the like, these 13-year-olds are all in a dorm system. It's not like they are being raised by individual sets of parents. They clearly are in, like a cohort of 13-year-olds. I want to point out one thing here that I thought was really funny. There's a couple of points in here where Cam, like the modern Camilla, kind of like interjects her own story to point out things that Warden has done since then, which include things like interfering with Swordsman Spire, which I assume was to like increase the requirement for competency over
That's what it sounded
attractiveness, which sounds like a thing that Palamides would do. I just love Palamides like is sitting there. He has so many ideas for the best way to make things happen. Yeah, the other one he has is like, we find out that they use these like skeletals. Yeah, they use skeletal constructs to maintain the outside of the space station. And he's like, we really should get someone who's good at bone magic. Yeah.
But anyway, they're counting up the points, and Palamides still doesn't have as many points as he needs for something, for advancing, I guess. And he says she doesn't have time. So, like, he's very much like,
I'm guessing these are points to become the warden.
I think so. I think that's all right.
Right, because like
or to be able to participate in the exams at least.
Yeah, it seems like it's, he has in his mind a goal of, I don't know if leader's the right word, but like having like a position of primary authority in order to try and save Dulcinea. Like for very rational deductive reasoning guy, he is entirely driven by
emotion.
A single person. Yeah.
He is a big ol' softy. He a hopeless romantic is very sweet.
Surprising.
Before they can finish this discussion about points, they are interrupted by archivist Juno Zeta. Zeta is the 6th letter of the Greek alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really interesting. One thing we pointed out is that Camilla Hecht is actually not 6, it's 100. However, it does have the prefix sixthness, and so I feel like it's really interesting that on the 6th house, they're actually much more flexible about what the naming conventions must be. Zeta doesn't mean 6, it just is the 6th letter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something interesting about them allowing for anything that's sort of associated with 6th. It both feels more relaxed and flexible, and it also feels more like nerdy and academic. Anything that you can touch and be like, see how this would be related to 6th in the following ways? I like it.
And Juno is the queen of the gods.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
The Roman equivalent of
Mother.
Hera.
Yeah.
They're interrupted by Juno Zeta, who promptly has them sign a form so that they can come along to an unsealing. And the room in question is the abandoned study of the famous Dr. Sex. We decide not to. And it has been sealed for more than 400 years under various departmental jurisdictions. And Archivist Zeta just got jurisdiction to take a team in.
I like how they describe Juno Zeta. Or this is Palamides' specific remark on the fact. So Cam describes her as being round-cheeked, sweet-eyed. What does voluble mean?
Talkative?
Talkative.
Okay, so she's chatty, she's round-eyed, she's sweet. Round-cheeked, sweet-eyed, that's what it was. Cheerful as a child. The warden always said that this was a deeply sinister and inappropriate facade for her brain.
I love that so much.
That's who I've always wanted to be as a person.
I think you get pretty close.
I was going to say, Brooke, you really have that. Yeah.
So close.
Yeah. So Camilla and Palamides put on their robes and shoe covers and follow the archivist out into the hall, past children watching the orange goo-covered skeleton servitors outside doing maintenance on the station.
Oh, yeah. So we get a brief... So, Hannah, you said at the beginning of this episode, or when we first started talking about this, that we start getting, like, a look at what, like, living on a space station is.
Yeah.
And they describe it kind of like what I would expect to be for looking outside of a space station, which is, like, you're kind of looking at rocks with sunlight hitting them. But Dulcinea's letter talks about, like, beautiful scenery with a mountain. I think, like, on the 9th, we got introduced to the idea that they were pumping an atmosphere. I kind of got the sense then that it was a contained sort of, like, in the place that they were living and not necessarily a whole terraforming situation with an artificial atmosphere for the planet. Like, do we think that Venus has an atmosphere that, like, I don't know much about Venus.
I thought Venus was a gas planet too, but I actually don't know,
not.
so don't quote me on it.
It just has a huge... I was just looking this up because I think that Mercury is way too close to even think about terraforming, but Venus is a theoretical. It's just not as sensible, quote unquote, like as Mars. But it is possible. Like, basically the problem with Venus is that it has this... insane greenhouse gas effect. And so if you could shield Venus from sun a bit, then you might be able to terraform it. So it's possible that's what's going on, is that they actually have terraformed Venus.
It also has 1 billion volcanoes. by the way.
Okay, so those are all the mountains in the scenery.
That works. Yeah, that's
there
exactly
are so
right.
many volcanoes on Venus.
I love that. That lines up perfectly. I also want to point out, just like in general, that even it doesn't have to be on the planet too. It could be on a moon. So like they could still be terraforming nearby. You know what I mean? But I like the idea that they've terraformed Venus and that's what the mountains are. That's great, John.
So they all head down toward the mysterious study of Dr. Sex. We're not going to. And Donald Sex was a super important scholar of post-resurrection psychometry. He's been interred in the Copper Garden, and his study sealed since his death. They didn't even open it for a fifth ambassador who wanted to see it, and instead, the ambassador had to just go down and try and tempt Dr. Sex's ghost, which did not work. So Zeta, Pal, and Cam meet up with the rest of the archivist's team, and they head into the study, which, aside from being a cool little study with books and whatnot, contains something unexpected, to wit, a pair of skeletal hands.
I just love that, like, this feels very Sixth to me. This feels very Scientist to me, that you're going and you're looking at all the little details, the names of the books and whatever, and you, like, have not done the big picture sweep yet. And so, like, something as obvious as a pair of hands on the desk has escaped your notice because you're looking at all the, like, tiny little details on the walls.
Yeah, and that's right. So Palamides immediately points out that on the desk are a pair of skeletal hands with jagged stumps that are not supposed to be there. And even more bizarrely, the psychometry shows that the bones are only 200 years old-ish, which is odd considering that the room has been sealed for 460 years. So everybody freaks out about what kind of form they're going to have to fill out in response to this development. And most of the team heads back upstairs to get the appropriate paperwork, which leads Archivist Zeta, Palamides, and Camilla behind in the study.
And just one thing, I'm just so continually impressed with Tamsin Muir writing like sidebars, like the sidebar. Everything always has sidebars, and they're always so good because it's like, you know, there's sidebars about the forms, there's sidebars, you know, over how old the hands are. Did some idiot leave them off the manifest, and have they been there really the whole time? Like there's just like the side conversations are so good.
Well, because they tell you so much just about the culture of the house without having to spell it out. Like, this is like the perfection of show don't tell, where it's just like, yeah, they're really fucking nerds about forms and bureaucracy.
No, this is like always, yeah. So Tamsin Muir, if she loves anything, she loves to drop you into a situation and she's like, yeah, catch up. Like, I assume we're walking fast. You better fucking come. Yeah, I really love this. I also, for me, I think it's very funny that it seems to me that the thing that the second house and sixth house would have in common is like too much paperwork. They would definitely be constantly signing forms in triplicate.
Yeah, and there's this sense that you get in this scene where like the average person on the sixth, like this whole team of the archivist team, you know, something crazy happens in their head immediately turns to, oh God, what do we got to do about this? Like, what is the appropriate process for handling something unexpected? Meanwhile, like Cam and Pal, like, don't give a shit about like paperwork. And in fact, like all the rules throughout this chapter, or I'm calling it a chapter, this short story, don't seem to like ever like give them much frustration or bother. Like they're just kind of like, yeah, this is just like, you know, part of life. It's just a puzzle, you know, to be great, you just got to work through the puzzle. And like, for all this, we're just going to work on the puzzle. And like, you know, we know how to handle the paperwork or the rules.
Yeah.
It's just part of the system that clicks into place when you're thinking about things. They never get in a kerfuffle over it. They never get frustrated by it. Bureaucracy is just a puzzle. It is not an impediment in their heads.
They definitely feel like, I mean, it's like when they're sitting there talking about points, they're just min-maxing. Like they're doing this like classic thing. They're trying to figure out like what is the absolute best way to solve this so that I can get as much as I want. But it's not the end goal, which I think is cool. Like, I feel like some people, the deep bureaucracy, the end goal is the min-maxing, but like the point of doing that is so that you can get at your end goal. And Camilla and Pal think bigger.
Yeah, they aren't bothered by the system because they understand the system and how to work within it. And so when the system is doing something bizarre, they're just like, eh.
It's a clear personality trait. Palamides likes to study his own contact dermatitis instead of like avoiding that duty.
So fucking funny. That was the greatest detail.
So bizarre. Anyway, Palamides and Camilla look around the room, and Pal says that the state of the desk bewilders him because there's a keypad to open drawers, and only one is open, and it has nothing in it but a nest of tissue paper. On the desk, there's a wooden ball with a piece sticking out. And Pal asks Camilla what she notices about the bones. And together, they realize that, number one, the wrist bones are uneven. The right arm has a much longer portion of radius. The bones were pinned together. The bones are orange, and the discoloration comes off when touched, because that was when they aren't allowed to touch it, but the sixth person who was doing the psychometry with the gel touched it, and that showed that the discoloration came off. Oxidation has been retarded. The preservation on the bone is thinner on the pads of the fingers, and there are honeycomb patches in the bone.
I really loved this scene because, so Palamedes is like, what do you see? And Camilla says in her notes to us that Palamedes always liked to teach. And so he is teaching her. He's doing that like, all right, student, like, what do you see? We'll back and forth it. But then also, as Marie pointed out, Camilla is so smart. She notices several things here that actually Palamedes doesn't. And Palamedes is like, you're a fucking genius, Cam. Cam's like, okay.
Through. I was going about this the entire wrong way.
Yeah. I love this combination of he's never condescending. And I think that's something he really values. It's something actually in Gideon the Ninth when he's talking about Dulcinea and her letters to him, that he says that she never treated him like a child. And he's the kind of person who wants to never treat anyone like a child. So he wants to take them seriously. So he's both excited and wants to teach Camilla, but he's also like...
He's receptive to new information, yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely.
We also get a funny moment where Juno is like, hey, like, if we're going to go up there, are you sure? Because we're going to have to document this and you're going to look like an idiot. If your theory doesn't pan out, like, we're going to document how dumb you are. Yeah.
Right. Well, because Palamedes asks the archivist if there's a service tunnel, because that is like their next thing. And there is, like, they look at all the manifests and they're like, yep, there is a service tunnel. And that's when, like you say, the archivist is like, are you sure that this is going to be worth it? Because I'll put my ass on the line for you, but only if you are sure. And they're like, I'm sure. So
she like 90% knows her son.
Yeah. And so they head up and they send Camilla, because Camilla's going to be the one who will be able to do it.
She doesn't have a dust allergy.
She doesn't have a dust allergy.
Nor claustrophobia.
Which is genetic, as Juno Zeta points out. But they head up and Camilla crawls along it until she finds the rest of the skeletal construct there over the grill in the ceiling, where it is frozen in the position of levering its own hand/arms off. So then the rest of the team comes back with the new sex form. Not going to. Nope.
I'm trying.
Pull it together.
Everyone debates, but Palamedes knows what happens here, and so he's going to give the classic Poirot end of mystery monologue, because he figured it all out with just his brain, not even using magic at all. Because basically they were like, it's going to be hell to pay if you did any psychometry. Like, you're basically not allowed. I guess because it's like driving without a permit, maybe?
That was the impression I got. I didn't understand it, though. I don't know if they were mostly afraid of him touching things or if they were...
I think it's just rules. I think it's just rules and driving without a permit.
It sounded almost more like they want you to train your brain as opposed to relying on necromancy for everything.
No, clearly not. The fact that this whole thing is like framed as something that's super impressive even for an adult to do, him like figuring this out with just his brain. They're not training for this at all. They're training for, like, being able to live within the system.
There's a part in this monologue when, like, Pal is sassing everyone and is, like, basically, like, using necromancy for everything makes you soft.
And his mom. Nobody likes a
his
smug
mom
child.
Is like, exactly.
You were going to give us the conclusion. So basically, what happened, Brooke?
Can you do it in your best foghorn leghorn voice?
What is that?
Why foghorn leghorn?
Because of Daniel Craig.
It's the accent Daniel Craig does in Knives Out.
What the fuck are those called? Knives Out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Is that what that's called? That accent's called?
I mean, it's similar.
No, I don't think I can emulate that. No. So, okay. Dr. Sex died at the edge of a breakthrough, and his revenant was unable to give up on that breakthrough for the last 400 years. And then when the fifth scholar came to try and call his ghost back around 200 years ago, the ghost came back, but just hung out in his own body because he was like stuck in this like copper tomb basically, until he could like figure out how to get out of it, which was by jumping to a skeletal server who was cleaning the copper garden. And we know this because it was a copper garden construct because his skeleton was pinned. The bones were eaten through, which means that he was using like acid cleaning stuff that was like mild acid. So they didn't give any protection. And so the bones ended up getting a little bit eaten through. Anyway, so then let's see. Dr. Sex ended up taking this haunted skeletal construct up to the maintenance team, and they sent him out to the outside of the space station covered in orange thermal paste, which explains the discoloration. He climbed into the service tunnel, and then this is where, like, he stuck his hands in the grate trying to, like, get into his office, right? And just levered off his own skeletal arms. And I guess that meant that his, like, soul, like, jumps into the arms and leaves the body behind, so the body's like stuck in this weird like leverage position, but his hands can now do the work of opening the drawer with the keypad and finishing this like basically wooden puzzle box, except for the very last piece.
I had a couple of questions about, I mean, it's amazing, but like, I actually think it's a really interesting question. Like, do you have to fragment your soul to be in both hands simultaneously?
That's
like,
kind of where I was like wondering about this, is like, that's what they're implying happens, is that like, as soon as the pieces are separate, that main body was no longer, maybe he just chose not to use it? I don't quite understand the...
Yeah, it definitely is giving that scene in Pirates of the Caribbean where the hand in the drawer is just like, nothing? Okay, never mind.
No, I got your head up.
Okay.
But I was going to say, it's interesting because it does give you insight, because it sounds like he figured it out while he was dead, right? Like he figured out how to solve it. And so
puzzle box.
Now we have a very interesting insight into the afterlife where souls can continue to operate and think well after they're dead, even if they're like completely gone. Like he's gone all the way from his body. Like he's gone and dead for 200 years, and they can still kind of call him back. And the whole time he's been thinking about solving this puzzle box.
Now, there's some interesting like nuance, it seems like, because Archivist Juno talks about it.
When he got called back is when he started thinking about it and being like, fuck, I got it.
Well, I think from what we've learned from Juno is that you can hold on to things in the afterlife. She talks about like, I wouldn't want anybody calling like my soul back after like dozens of years to ask me where like the detail of where one thing was. Like
right.
I would not remember that. Like I've long forgotten that. But like then there's this idea that he was driven, right? That a revenant is a really uncommon thing. And that in order to become a revenant, there like usually it's passion, like something that like maybe you got murdered. But in this case, his passion was solving the fucking puzzle box. And so I think you're right. And initially, John, is that like this guy was like in the afterlife, like still dwelling on how to finish this puzzle box. And when somebody gave him the opportunity to come back to his body, he took it.
And he like, oh my God. He also, they tell us afterwards that they do open up his like casket in the Copper Garden, and there are scratch marks on the inside of it where his body had been trying to get out. And
Like
so
like the bones were worn down.
Yeah,
on
and
his body.
you have to like remember that
no pain receptors.
He had the opportunity though to like be like, oh, well, I can't get out of here. Guess I'll go back to death. But instead he was like, no, I'm going to fucking go and finish this goddamn puzzle. This is like a very obsessive personality.
So fucking sick because he did not finish the puzzle.
No.
He did not finish the puzzle. So like let's like go a little bit out of order here, which is
we should.
They do. We're not going to read the note yet. We'll leave the note for the very end. They do give, everybody votes that like, yes, you figured it out. That sounds great. We're going to give Scholar Sextus the right to finish the wooden sphere, to slot the last piece into place, and they open up the puzzle box, and inside is a piece of paper. And then immediately, Palamides and Camilla get kicked out of the room and sent to dinner, and shortly, all of Palamides' conjectures are confirmed. Like, he even tells them, like, how to confirm that this is what happened, that basically a servitor
Go look
got...
at the tomb.
Yeah.
Go look at the records.
Then also that the ghost did not finish the puzzle box because he didn't know how long it was going to take them to actually open the room. And so he didn't want his findings to be completely lost. And so it's like, by this time, like, obviously the hands, maybe not obviously, but it really seems like the Revenant is not in the hands anymore. It's very much like he got to that point and was like, okay, somebody will carry on this work, and that is good enough for me.
But he just needed to solve the puzzle box and prove that he basically did solve the puzzle box.
Exactly.
Yeah, you still want credit.
And then all of this is going to give Palamedes an extra point in his grades. And Juno Zeta tells him like mother like son and tells him to leave his report in her pigeonhole so that he can get his extra point for the grade. And Pal and Cam celebrate the extra point, but mostly they just spend the next hour fucking cackling because of Dr. Sex. And
The other sex form fucking had me rolling. The other
like,
sex
no.
form. And then, oh my God. And then when I wrote this up, I wrote down the sex ghost, and I was like dying. I'm just like choking on my own, like, oh my God.
Hannah, you pointed out Camilla usually calls him scholar or warden, like uses his title, like in her head, like he is his title very often, which is, I guess, very formal feeling. But at the end here, she does
Except
actually
for the
call him
last
by his
line.
name. Yeah. And it was
And
like in a very
so-
personal moment. So I just get the idea that she tends to run very professional, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's just very...
And as soon as they decide to, she also uses
then
his
she
name.
can break. Well, yeah, so that's the other thing, though, is I think that part of it is about honor. I think she always wants to, like, honor Palamedes. I think she really holds him in
Respect.
a true amount of esteem. Yeah, but I also think to some degree for her, it ends up being, like, a defense mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
A way of
I see.
distancing herself from it.
Right, in the future. I gotcha.
Especially when she is reminiscing about the warden, right? And so the very last
Keeps
line
emotional
of
distance.
it is talking about how they just saw a snatch of the letter. And she said that she doesn't have a copy of it anymore because he and I burned the transcript to keep from getting caught with it. He didn't need one anyway, nor did I. Palamedes remembers everything. That was his problem. I always remember him. That's mine.
Yeah.
Which makes it sound like this was written after.
After he died, I know. Oh my God, what a stab in the heart.
I'm gonna take that as confirmation that she's still alive somewhere, and that
Yeah,
we're gonna
I
meet
think
her
you're
in
right.
Harrow.
Yeah.
Um,
We have no evidence to suggest that she's dead.
So anyway, let's talk about that piece of paper that says, "Darling girl, tomorrow you will become a lictor and finally go where I can't follow. I want you to keep this letter when you are far away and think of me and want me and can't have me, and know that no matter how far you travel, nor how long the years feel, the one thing that never stays entombed is..." ...
It's Tamsin Muir's favorite plot device. The interruptus.
that and chopped off writing, where like we're missing parts of words.
Yeah, plautus interruptus.
In the official Latin. Right. So what? It says Palamedes maintains it's a love letter, which almost implies that Camilla disagrees, but she doesn't provide an alternative.
How do you feel about it?
I think that feels right, but I'm not certain whether it's a romantic love versus like a parent to a child. It feels like it very much could be a parent to a child, or even like, no, yeah, those kind of feel like the most. You want me and can't have me feels like there's either a parent or a romantic partner.
Can I just call my shot right now on this?
Let's do it.
Go for it.
Actually,
You want to hold off for rampant speculation or what?
I have a rampant speculation area.
I was just rereading this and I was like, ooh, that might make sense. And then I was like, wait, that probably doesn't make sense. So,
Okay, let it simmer.
okay, yeah, we'll let it simmer.
Before we head out to a game this week, I do have a question for you all, which is, what is the thing that would keep you coming back 400 years after your death?
Oh yeah, I'd be coming back to check whether or not my husband put his dinner plate in the dishwasher or if it was just in the sink next to the dishwasher.
Wait, Brooke, are you the person that does the organized dishwasher loading or like the chaos dishwasher loading? Like, have you seen
I'm
that?
sorry. There are rules for organizing a dishwasher. I'm not.
There's no way that that's chaos.
I mean, I
Brooke,
don't know what
this was for
chaos means in your
content.
head. Hold on. I'm very confused about. I mean, I have some rules, but like that doesn't mean that I'm like, strict about like. Okay, the rules are plastic does not go on the bottom. right? Okay, it will melt. We don't ruin our shit. Plastic goes on the top shelf 100% of the time. You do not put plastic on the bottom shelf unless you're trying to ruin your shit. You do not put other things that would get ruined in the dishwasher. Pots, pans, wood, knives, fucking A. Oh my God, people who put their knives in the dishwasher are just asking for their shit to get ruined. But, like, I crowd it. Like, I don't know. Like, I will stuff that thing to the max. I play risky, actually, even with things like, well, I don't want things to break. Again, I don't like ruining my shit.
Risky with?
Like, I will put glass things, like, pretty close to each other.
Oh.
Feels like they could knock each other around and break.
Okay. John, what are you coming back to 400 years after your death?
No, well, I was actually going to say, like, the dishwasher thing's actually hilarious. Like, I think you check, like, that's just, I am the person that organizes
Whisper
our
in the
dishwasher.
ear, you need to put your dishes in the dishwasher.
Now, honestly, when I'm coming back 400 years after my death, I'm just curious as to what the future looks like. Like, I think it'd be less of, like, haunting a specific person or trying to accomplish anything. I'm thinking I have a lot of life left to live. Like, maybe something horrible happens. Maybe, you know, this podcast becomes gigantic and I get murdered by a fan and then I have to come back. Like, you know.
First thought.
Yeah.
First thought, what if I become famous?
Oh, but not murdered by a co-host. I'm so touched. You don't think any of us...
Oh, no, we're absolutely starting a cult once this gets famous and then, you know, getting a compound in Montana.
So we all die together or not at all.
Yes.
Oh, I love that for us.
We die in a shootout with the ATF, like, of course.
And we come back to do Electo. Like...
Hannah, what are you coming back for?
I mean this sincerely, I'm not. There is not a fucking thing you could tempt me with. Once I'm dead, I am out of here. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to dream. I'm going to be so not attached to anyone texting me or emailing me. Like, it doesn't matter what fresh blood you have. You cannot fucking call me back. Done.
See, we should have ended with that, but instead, I think what it is I'm not necessarily coming back, but it'll be something where I don't realize that I've died and I just keep, like, fucking beating my head against the wall because I am specifically thinking about the fact that I've spent 8 hours of my life doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again this week, trying to get a fucking bioinformatics pipeline to work because I knew that it was my file names, but I didn't know what it was about my file names. So it's going to be something like that where I'm like, have a heart attack midway, but like the revenant refuses to leave until
That's the history professor
works.
From Harry Potter, right? He just kind of got up from his desk one day and left his body behind.
100%. That is me. Yeah.
I love that for you, Marie. That's glorious.
No, it's not, because it's not going to be something fun. Like, I'm going to go get up and teach. It's going to be like the goddamn pipeline. Anyway, with our revenant schedules fully established, I think it's time to shift gears and play a game. Interstitial. I need to start carrying around a microscope. I think this is a great time to point out that I do have a pocket microscope that I do carry around. Anyway, this week we are playing a collaborative game that is popular in both the 6th, 2nd, and 6th houses. 2nd? They don't play games. Yeah. Anyway, it's Be Prepared D&D Rules Lawyer Edition. And,
come on, if they played games, it would be Prepared Rules Lawyer Edition. That's very 2nd house, but they don't actually play it.
Exactly. They just do it. Okay, anyway.
It's a lecture.
Camilla and Palamides started carrying some useful items, like based on just the shit that they've been doing, right? So they've got flashlights, they've got psychometry, conductive gel, but it's clear that they could use more because they thought about the pocket microscope too late. So
Measuring
our
tape.
job is to figure out, to what they both need to carry given the following constraints. So each of them has 2 pants pockets and 4 pockets in their robe. So that's a total of 12 pockets, people. Of those, only 2 robe pockets are big enough to house a hardback copy of Harrow the Ninth. So that gives us 4 big pockets to carry around the Locked Tomb series hardbacks. Or whatever else we want, Anyway, the rest are standard boy jeans pocket sized. we can add, this is how you truly know that it's the future, is because we don't have girl jean pocket sizes. Anyway, we can add bags if we want, but if Camilla the Sixth carries more than a belt bag or a fanny pack, she will no longer be able to do backflips. And if Palamides carries more than 10 pounds in a backpack, his speed is reduced to 0. So the goal is they need to be able to carry everything they will need for 3 days and 3 nights worth of Bone Zone adventuring. Go.
Okay.
Do we get more details? What kind of adventuring we're doing?
Bone Zone.
No.
Do we know what planet we're on?
No.
I think we should assume it's somewhere where they can get water, but I think we should have them bring some sort of food. I bet there's like highly condensed food things in the future.
Yeah, whatever the equivalent of the Lord of the
Nutrient
Rings
paste.
Elf food that they have, where it's
Yum
like
this bread.
I put nutrient paste.
Nutrient
Okay.
paste.
Yeah.
I like nutrient paste. I think they for sure need to continue with their flashlight.
Flashlight's always useful. Headlamp, actually, so that you can have your hands free.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
That's so smart.
they definitely have a medical bag based on the events of Gideon the Ninth.
Their medical bag has just got like little wires in it, though.
It might have like a couple of, it has some like bandage. It has that orange goo that they put on Gideon in order to pull bone splinters out, because you know how often that happens. When you're bone zone adventuring, you got to
Bone
be
zone
able to pull
adventuring.
out a bone splinter.
Okay.
I do think, so here's my weird hot take. I think they're wasting space on a measuring tape.
Yeah.
I think what you do is you tattoo your own arm with marks at, centimeter intervals so that you can relatively easily measure just using your own body, and then you're not
Right.
taking up pocket space.
Correct. I think that's genius. Absolutely. So a visit to the tattoo artist is in order. What else could you tattoo onto yourself to save space? Maps, certainly.
Yeah, Palamides never forgets anything, so
A
as long
map
as you
to
have
dry
him look
land.
at everything.
Excellent.
A map to dry land. Sorry.
Obviously, that is tattooed on Cam's back.
It's a great point. It's a great point. I think I don't know what like necromancy things they need. It's clear that they use this
Conducted
gel. Yeah, multiple times. And Palamides is not a bone guy. I don't know that we need to bring
No.
bones with us.
They need a Sharpie.
Oh my God, they need Sharpie and flimsy for sure.
Sharpie, flimsy, and tape.
And gloves. They use gloves a
Duct
lot.
tape is always useful.
Mm.
Yeah.
Whatever like the in-universe equivalent of Gatorade is, I feel like if you're like doing necromancy and sweating blood, you probably need to replace
that's
your
a great
electrolytes.
point.
Liquid IV.
Liquid
or,
IV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Electrolytes.
Pedialyte, like Necrolite or whatever.
Necrolite.
I was gonna put something like water purification.
Yeah, I kind of think that's smart. Because, again, this adventure, we could have anything. We don't know what's going to happen.
I'm always very concerned about rain when I go out on adventures. So I would bring an umbrella,
They've got cloaks.
a tarp,
Like
Tarp could be useful.
or just a dry bag.
They're gonna bring
Oh,
because
that
it's
is
too
their bag.
big. It's too big. They're gonna
Well,
bring
plastic
those
sheeting.
aluminum.
Yeah, I know
Thermal
what you're talking about.
blankets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a thermal
Okay,
blanket.
thermal blanket.
We're
like that.
We're forgetting what every adventurer needs, which is rope.
Rope. Every adventurer needs rope. That's true. But I think you want rope and string.
Just
because I
twine.
think there's different kinds of tying you want to be able to do. I like that a lot.
How much
How much space do we have left?
space do you think we have? I think we're pretty much there. Like thermal blankets, you could roll up. Like let's see, nutrient paste has to go in the bag, and that's probably the nutrient paste and the thermal blankets. The thermal blanket doesn't take that much, but I think the nutrient paste, the thermal blanket, and the medical bag are like all that you can get in a backpack.
Okay.
Like that is it.
And I think that's okay. Backpack, we've got nutrient paste and what was it?
First aid kit.
Nutrient and the first aid kit. What? I didn't realize you'd actually put stuff in here, Brooke.
I did not.
It was me. I
Although
also
that
put
is my-
deodorant, but I'm feeling like that was,
Yourself.
who cares? Yeah, I mean,
Not an
I care,
essential.
but
It
Not an
only
essential.
if you have some like professional activities in your bone zone adventuring. Like if you have to go and present your results to a
But see,
team
you
of
might,
people.
so they might need deodorant.
But then you just get like one of those like you know how they have like those little like little tabs of paper that you can like use as detergent to throw into your washing machine these days, or like for washing your hands, which
Maybe
does
it's just
seem
like a
like
wipe.
useful. Like yeah, exactly.
Wipes. They need wipes.
Just wipes.
Okay.
A a couple Purell wipes. Usually I like to bring along the ones that I got from the planes during COVID because they were free and they're like proper size for just tucking into a pack.
Yeah. Nice.
I also, so whenever I pack like bags for adventuring, which was mostly when I would be going on sales trips for my job, I was very focused on bringing some homely comforts with myself, which would usually be like a pack of tea or 3.
Letter from Dulcinea.
Here you go.
And I mean, are they big tea drinkers? I don't know what.
I mean,
like,
it is
the way
what
they
you
made
need.
themselves comfortable in Canaan House was to put up like stuff on the walls, just hella flimsy.
I mean, maybe all we need is a way to heat up some water.
What are these?
Eye mask.
Eye mask.
Eye mask. Hell yeah. Or usually earplugs are really important in hotels.
This is, we're getting out there. This is our Bone Zone adventure. You know, you don't want to have to hear the people next door. Your Bone Zone adventure.
Well, we mentioned this last week, but definitely a Tide pen, like Tide to Go pen.
Tide to Go pen.
to get all the stuff out of your,
These are all things that are currently in my backpack, by the way. Because I used to go on sales trips with like a moment's notice.
Here's one that won't be sharpening stones for your swords.
No, you're correct.
Ooh,
That's
God,
not.
I forgot about all the swords and shit. Swords,
Well, those
whetstone.
don't go in the bag.
That's a great point.
But the
No,
whetstone
but the
does.
whetstone does. Yeah, and I don't know if you need any like specific oil or cloths for, you know.
Probably a cloth. Whetstone.
Oil definitely in
cloths.
case,
Yeah.
blood could corrode your blade.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is a great point. And I feel like Cam would have extra knives.
Extra
those
knives.
are just on her.
You know, some of these could go in two to a pocket, but I think we really got
I think
most
we're
of the
maxed.
stuff they need.
Yeah, I think we
I
got
feel good
it.
about it.
Yeah.
We need a way to make fire.
Oh, sorry. I do like multi-tool, I think, and sewing kit for sure.
Sewing kit is always useful.
Fire
Do
starter.
you think they need a flint?
Is that what we
Steel
need?
and flint?
Yeah, it's some way of making fire, whatever that is. I feel
I
like
think
it would
steel
be.
and flint is more like
Or
matches
just-
get wet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so here's the thing. I feel certain that they would have those electric.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm talking
The
about?
fire
They, like-
starters that you recharge and that have a little like little lightning zap
yes,
for lighting
yes.
your candles.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do I
underwear.
use it? Yes.
You need a change of underwear.
Underwear. 3X.
3X. That's
feel-
exactly how I
feel
make
good
my
about
list.
that.
I think we filled up on our pockets and bags. I don't know if there's
Oh,
much
we
more
definitely
that
have
can...
our pockets. Yeah.
A lot of this goes in the backpack. Backpacks are pretty
Yeah,
good.
but 10
but-
pounds?
And none of this is all that heavy.
That's true. That's true.
Except for
This is good.
swords.
Do we want to give them a pocket microscope?
Yes.
I mean, they insist. This is for thanergetic explorations, I suppose, perhaps. Pocket microscope, measuring tape. What
I
else
think
do
we
you
can
use in
fit
a
this
lab?
all in.
What else do you use in a lab? Maybe they need like a scalpel,
Tweezers?
tweezers, forceps.
I feel like that goes in the medical bag.
Oh, they
Right.
probably
Oh, yeah.
would be in there.
Forceps,
Yep.
forceps and scalpel would be in
These
the
are
medical
usually
bag.
in your first aid kit.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Scalpels.
I think we got it. I think we got it.
Okay. I love this. We have set them up. I think they're ready to go.
Well, I mean, I think it's obviously time for some rampant speculation.
Yeah. Checks
Yep.
out.
Act 3. Nobody likes a smug child, scholar. So it's a short story, but it's always interesting to learn more details, and we 6th House fiends are permanently hungry for data. So we do want to take a little time to ask our newbies how this all fits with their conspiracy theories. So Brooke and John, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, I'm really hoping that this short story is Tamsin's way of laying groundwork for Pal's Revenant to be directing all future events of Harrow, Nona, from behind the scenes. After all, Cam knows what to do.
Interesting.
So I have 2. One, and this is just funny because this is also my crackpot theory. They mentioned that Dr. Sex's crackpot theory is that there was a increase in the saturation of thanergy and thalergy after the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeds into my conspiracy that we like let Pandora's box or death out into the world. Like they were like, we fucked up the order of the universe, discovering necromancy and doing the resurrection. So they describe it as a crackpot theory. I think it is also my crackpot theory.
Yeah, it's like carbon dating.
Yes. And then the second thing is I'm starting to wonder if that letter was written from the emperor to one of the lictors, because it says you must go somewhere where I can't go, which would be the place where you become a lictor, which is now where the god can't go back to Earth. And so if you're going somewhere to become a lictor, it's a place he can't go. So I'm wondering if that letter is
I'm not.
from the Emperor to a lictor.
I think I swirled that thought around for a nanosecond at one point, and I'm not sure it makes full sense in the end.
Yeah, that's why I was waffling back and forth earlier.
I guess the reason I think maybe it's not that is because this very much feels like, not just a temporary separation, but like a permanent separation. And like the Necrolord Prime would be like, ta-ta for now, see you later.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see if any of that happens next time when John and Brooke come back in 2 weeks, because we're taking a week off between seasons. We deserve a break to start reading Harrow the 9th.
And if you, dear listener, are, like me and John, in reading along for the first time, make sure you find our reading calendar on our website, frontline5th.podbean.com, or follow us on Instagram or TikTok, which are both linked to the show notes. And if you like this podcast, please share it with your friends and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And if you didn't like it, feel free to lie. Now head off to sleep, my baby necros. Mommy and Daddy have some deep spoilers to discuss.
Get in, losers! We're going speculating!
Act 4. Using necromancy for everything makes you soft. That's what she said.
Oh my god.
Warning, this portion of the podcast is 98% spoilers and like 2% snickering.
Seriously, we will spoil anything and everything in the series up through Nona the 9th. That's not what you want. Turn back now. There was something that John said that I was like, wait, he said he wanted to start a cult.
That is my end game. I actually feel really strong. I was talking to some strangers last night at a dinner party, and I feel so bad for them because I was telling them about how much I really think that like the final glass ceiling that needs to be broken is woman cult leaders. There really are just not. I'm like, this is why I love women serial killers so much. This is why I'm so into Villanelle from Killing Eve. But yeah, we got to start a cult.
If you're here for women's wrongs.
That's exactly. I love that. That was beautiful.
It's not.
But before we get too deep into it, John and Brooke both had some hilarious conspiracy theories this week. So the first one was Brooke fucking nailing it in a way that should not have been possible about she was saying Calamities is going to be puppeting things from behind the scenes because Cam knows what to do. And like we now know that dead people can kind of influence, the world. So she doesn't know that Calamities is still sort of technically sort of alive as opposed to being a revenant. But I love that she knows that Calamities is coming back and is going to have an impact on this next book. That's a huge pull.
Or she's like really hoping, that that's what this means. Right. That's what it's hinting to. And actually what I really love is that reading this short story now gives you a lot of insight into how revenants work and the fact that if you really have a specific purpose and something that you really care about and something that you're trying to get done, you can stick around in insane fucking circumstances and get crazy shit done. And it's like, yes, unusual, and it's not going to happen all the time. Like, that's not usually how ghosts and revenants work. You usually have to work pretty hard to get them back, but it will help so much that they have at least seen that revenants can do wacky shit when it comes to the bonkers stuff at the end of
that
Harrow
Wake does. Yeah, that's a great point. This was a perfect time for us to read this story because you're absolutely right. Wake is a powerful revenant. Wake scares the shit out of me in a way that doesn't even totally make sense. Like, yeah, that's very cool that they'll actually have some insight into this. It was just in general, it's been fun to read this story, and we'll be publishing another episode on As Yet Unsent because these little pockets of information about the world, I don't know. I get so full of random little ideas that I think are fascinating. There's this brief one-off when Calamities is pointing out that copper is not as like thanergetically null as they thought it was.
Right, because the whole reason that they put them in the copper garden, or that they put like important bodies in the copper tombs, is to try to prevent shit like this happening.
Yes. Which made me like, suddenly I had all these questions about the Mithraeum about like when you have bones everywhere because everybody's decorating everything with fucking bones.
Is there
like
something with copper in the Mithraeum?
there is a truly weird place where the lictors are interred and where Cytherea's body is laid out that has these
Right.
pillars that's mixture of like bone and wires, but I don't know that it was copper, but I just got really oddly excited about
Yeah.
this weird little one-off detail. What I wanted to know what you think the letter is.
I feel like because it's on the 6th and the way that it is, it feels like it could be kind of confusing in a way. Like, it doesn't seem quite right that it is a cavalier to their necromancer. But
That's what I think it is.
But I
think
that
it is
that's what
from
it is.
Nigella specifically because Nigella and Cassiopeia are married, and like I think that it is from Nigella to Cassiopeia. But the way it's written, the way it's written, and with what we know about what Cassiopeia was trying to attempt, it doesn't sound like
Yeah, it doesn't make it sound quite right because it says you finally go where I can't follow.
Yeah, and also, and know that no matter how far you travel, how long the years feel, you know, as though they're separating from one another, as opposed to one of them dying, as opposed to one of them being subsumed. It doesn't quite feel like a goodbye forever death letter, and perhaps
But
it is.
also
But
it says you think of me and want me and can't have me.
yeah,
But no matter where you go or how long it is, the one thing that never stays entombed is presumably my love for you.
right.
But who knows?
But watch as it's the one thing that never stays entombed is the ghost of a cavalier or something like that, where it's like, woo, maybe she's coming back. I feel like Cassiopeia definitely did something weird in the lictor process intentionally. There's so many lictors who did things that are interestingly odd. Like, you know, obviously we know that Anastasia was trying for something different. We know that, so Pyrrha says that Gideon and Pyrrha were an accident, but I feel like that's a weird accident to have to preserve that much of a cavalier and allow her to hide. So maybe who knows what was going on there, but
It might be something where they were trying for a different way and it was an accident, because I think she does mention that they were trying for a different way, right?
I literally skimmed over it yesterday. She basically says it's an accident and that he ate more of her than Harrow did of Gideon, but that she's managed to go underground even from him, which is also interesting that this is like an intentional move on her part to stay under wraps.
But I think it's also really instructive that Pyrrha, even as a cavalier, even as somebody who is non-necromantic, the challenge is called Pyrrha's challenge.
Yeah, Pyrrha is something special. It's possible she actually had power in some format. And she also, well, I guess actually 3 of the Cavaliers are from the Old World. 4 of the Cavaliers are from the Old World.
I think it's instructive the order in which things happen, because Cavalier, I think we could go over this ad nauseum. Cavaliers 1 and 2 happen because they are forced into it.
Because of the Suicide Pact, yeah.
And then Gideon and Pyrrha are like the next, we see how it's done, but we're actually planning to do it.
Yes.
And we know that Pyrrha went willingly, but also maybe intentionally did something weird, right? So like,
that's
we
right.
know that from the letter, from the note, or like the weird scribbled notes in the bubble from Wake, where she references Pyrrha asking Gideon to kiss her before he kills her. Yeah. Oh God, I'm so fucking excited. I'm too excited, Marie, for them to start Harrow. I've been thinking about it for weeks, and I'm really, really glad we read these stories. I think you're right. I think it's going to be really informative, and it also is just fun as kind of like a little interstitial, which is what it is. But Harrow is so bonkers from the get-go. Harrow is so other level bizarre in a way that, you know, Gideon the Ninth is a fabulous locked room mystery, as you said in our very first episode. And it is like all good mysteries. It's got lots of twists and turns, and you don't really know what's going to happen, and you don't know who is the murderer. But Harrow is where you don't know what the world is. Like, it's a totally different level of confusion and speculation. I'm very excited for them. I can't wait for them to be broken by these next 2 things. That's all.
Me
Like,
too.
I think they're going to be
it's
like,
gonna be
what
wonderful.
the actual fuck?
I think it's going to be great.
Act 5. See you next time, my little nunlets. I could not be more excited for Brooke and John to star Harrow the Ninth. We're taking a week off, but please join us in just 2 weeks to read the Prologue and Parados. If you want to follow along with us, our reading calendar is available on our website at frontline5th.podbean.com, and you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok, which are linked in the show notes. If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And of course, if you didn't enjoy the podcast, feel free to lie. We have a Patreon, which you can join for access to bonus content every month. You can become a patron, and patrons at all levels have extra content to comfort them in these trying times at patreon.com/frontline5th. Finally, if you have any fun theories that you'd like to share with us, feel free to email us at frontline5th@gmail.com. With that, I'll just remind you not to unlock any tombs or enter any doors without permission because, ghosts. Bye!
Frontline Fifth is a Locked Tomb podcast conceived by Marie Adamako and starring Marie Adamako, Hannah Grunwald, Brooke Anderson, and John Ryan. Our cover art was designed and created by Marie Adamako, who also edited this episode. Our fabulous music was composed and recorded by Blake Anderson. The Locked Tomb series is a completely dope-ass book series by Tamsin Muir, who does not know we exist and is in no way affiliated with this podcast.